The market rising higher again yesterday. Run us through some of your expectations for the trading day ahead.
Well, thank you, Alishia, for having me. We saw the market rally once again yesterday, as it did the day before, and we expect that the same will continue today. Basically, market sentiments have been driven by foreign investments that we see in the market. We've noted in recent time that with the values being traded in Nigerian bourse, we expected and we have seen a return of foreign investors coming to take advantage of what you find as value proposition in the market today. And so we've seen some foreign investments. We've seen a lot of activity in the banking industry. If you look at yesterday, you will see that the movement or the volumes being traded were largely driven by the banking sector, the insurance sector, and the building materials sector. The banking sector is not unexpected because we also expect to see some M&A activities in the banking sector.
What's interesting is that there's a distinction being made between your top tier banks and your mid-tier banks as well by investors. I mean, looking at yesterday's performance and Monday as well, we had your mid-tier and fringe banks really dominating activities and amongst the top performers on a day. Why is that distinction being made by investors at this stage?
Well, if you look at the value inherent in the banking industry, as we have in Nigeria right now, you will see that the mid-tier banks probably have more value in terms of the prices at which they're trading right now. Also, you remember that when CBN intervened in the market with rescuing about 9 banks, what they did say was that none of the top-tier banks could also acquire any of the banks that they had rescued. And so that opened a door for the mid-tier banks to play in the M&A activity that is being expected. So we expect that what investors have seen is that if these banks, the mid-tier banks being the Fidelity banks, the Access Bank, FCMB, Diamond Bank, if they can play actively in the acquisition that we expect them to do in mergers and acquisition, this bank will subsequently grow to become maybe also among the top tier banks. So it's probably better to invest in these banks right now and ride the curve of the M&A activities with those banks. And so it's not unexpected that you would see more activity around the mid-tier banks than the top-tier banks.
Well, certainly Sky Bank and Fidelity Bank have both been doing well over recent sessions, and one would assume that part of the reason. Any speculation yet as to who possible targets for these banks could well be?
Well, you remember that Sky Bank and Fidelity Bank are the 2 banks that have come forward to say they were interested in M&A activities, in acquisitions actually, of some of the rescued banks. It's not very clear who their targets might be right now. I believe that they're keeping that very close to their chest. I believe also that we believe that there are a lot of due diligence going on right now. But what we hear is that Union Bank seems to be the bride that everybody would want to have right now. We hear that there are lots of activities, both from foreign investors and Sky, Fidelity, and other mid-tier banks looking very seriously at Union Bank, because if you look at Union Bank with the branch network they have, with the legacy of the bank, it's a strong brand in the market, and you'd expect that lots of activities will go on round about Union Bank and amongst other banks.
Well, all of that, Samuel, sorry to interrupt, but we are running out of time. So all of that providing some of the positive impetus here, but this in a context where we had the Ministry of Finance say that toxic assets from banks have grossed 1.5 trillion naira. I mean, this is nearly the entire budget for the 2010 fiscal year. So let's take a look at that and what that has done to investor sentiment. Or is that extreme, a toxic asset being priced into the banking sector's share prices already?
Well, 1.5 trillion, that's a lot. As you rightly said, that's about the 2010 budget of Nigeria. And what that brings to fore is that for anybody who is seeking to invest in the banking industry, you need to do proper due diligence, because you must know that the non-performing loans differ from banks to banks. And I think to a large extent that it's been priced into the valuation of the banks right now, looking at what we know from what the CBN has done and what will be revealed from due diligence going forward.